I'm Chris from Airwindows, and I have another plugin today, which is following up on some researches that I've been doing recently. Namely, you can do this. But I don't mean the reverb that you hear. That's just the way that I'm going to be demonstrating it. What I'm talking about is a new plugin entitled, that's right, PaulWide. It's another dither. What I have here is TPDFDither, TPDFWide, which was last week, and PaulWide. And PaulWide's the one of interest today. So we can make everything in this mix, including my voice and the huge galactic reverb that I've got, that and Seriously are free and available already out of my plugins. If we convert it to 16-bit, we've got a noise floor here, and you can kind of hear I've just transferred everything over to low bit. Come to think of it, hang on a second. I can fool with these things a little more while I'm at it. Just add a little more space, because I'll tell you what, there's another plugin that I can demonstrate some of these things with. And that would be this plugin, Derez. So see how this has a control marked Derez? That's because this is what this does. If you have Derez, you're bit crushing. It's not set up to be exactly the same, but Derez will truncate. So if you have it set up like this, we've got a very, very low bit sound recording here. It is not dithered, so you're hearing pure truncation and extremely degraded quality. And this is what you want to avoid. But if we set TPDFDither to be the same loudness as that, instead of doing this and having the very low quality sound, this is the same process of Derez but dithered. And that means the background noise is loud and it's still truncated, but dither means you can hear under the noise floor. And that's why I have all this reverb, because the reverb is stereo reverb, whereas my voice is not stereo voice. And the plugins I'm demonstrating are firstly TPDFWide, and secondly PaulWide, because PaulWide is what I was calling PaulDither, except for the wide version. So here's how this works. First of all, let's set these all to the same amount. Now you'll be able to hear through the noise floor that the dither generates. These plugins do truncate, just like this does. I can make it be quieter and it'll still be a complete mess. But, whereas this is dithered noise floor, instead of the truncation, which is opaque, you can't hear through it at all, it's just a roar. This is TPDFWide. And the idea with that is it is taking all the random dither values, which you have to do TPDFDither. And if the stereo channels are too close together, within about 0.5 of a difference, it will throw out one of the channels and re-roll it. It'll still be random, but it tried again to get two volumes that were different from each other, because if you have mono dither, like the outputs are the same number, the audio will get narrower. And so you should be able to hear the width of the soundstage of this huge reverb being maybe a little bit constricted versus TPDFWide, which I did get last week. You might be able to hear it a little wider, a little farther out. Which brings us to PaulWide. The reason I call it that is this is in honor of Paul Frindle, the programmer and audio designer who was doing work on Sony Oxford, and he's a very smart and insightful guy, and he recommends this kind of dither mode. It is a high-passed dither. What you do is you take your random value and then you save it so that you use the random value in one sample, and then the next sample you invert it, you subtract it. What that means is that the sound, instead of being this, is this. It's brighter. It is a high-pass dither. The low frequencies of the audio are taken away, and it is white noise, so it's got a lot of high frequencies there anyway, but it's cleaning it up a little bit, and it's cheaper because you only have to generate the one random number, and it just generally sounds good. So here's the deal. TPDFDither is pretty dark, and it's made out of white noise, but it's not one of your brighter dithers. And the regular one, the results can end up being mono, so it can narrow things a little bit. TPDFWide, you can kind of hear how it's widening out a little bit. And remember, you're hearing me and this reverb through very, very low bit audio. And then PaulWide, which is the high-pass dither that Paul Frindle talked about and that I implemented in PaulDither, but using the same re-rolling the random number thing so that it will be a wider effect. And fix your mind upon the width of this stereo reverb. What do you think of that? So what we have here in PaulWide is a TPDF dither, because this is still a TPDF dither. It is two random sources for each sample, for each channel. It's high-passed, so it's cleaner in the low frequencies, and it's a little quieter, but it's still TPDF. It's still ordinary, regular regulation dither. And it's using the technique of re-rolling if the outputs are too close together to each other. But with PaulWide, since it's a high-pass dither, you're more likely to get a striking stereo effect. So the difference we have between TPDFWide, which is already wide, and then PaulWide, which is the high-passed TPDF dither, is even wider than that. And it's all still correct, normal regulation dither, with two noise sources that are exactly one least significant bit in size, and then being truncated. And there are settings where you can set it to 16-bit or 24-bit, which changes the level of DRes, but there's a limit to how loud DRes can get, so it should be fine. And if you're trying to listen to the noise floor and compare stuff like this, you can turn re-res up. With these dithers, you will never hear it sounding like this, because that's what dither does. This is the original DRes. This is a truncation to the noise floor that we can make as loud as we want, or quieter. But this is the bad sound. This is what you don't want in your noise floor, whether it's 16-bit or 24-bit. And then you turn on something like PaulWide, and even if you have it at a very, very low bit, you still get a little bit of a sense of the reverb back there, even though you're being blasted with audio, and that's because you can hear way down into the noise floor, which people don't normally understand. But the idea is that's the noise floor. Now you can hear way far under it. and then we turn it to this, and it is now 16-bit resolution, and this is CD quality. So if you're making CDs for any reason in 2021, then you can use this, and again, it's still regulation TPDFDither, much like what you would get somewhere else. It is the two noise sources that are exactly one least significant bit in size. But it's not only brighter and cleaner, but it is wider. Let's just see if we can hear any difference between this and the 24-bit output. So this is our 24-bit output, and then when we turn on the CD quality, we're dithering to CD, and we're using this widened enhancing dither, and we get this. That difference is at 16-bit quality. If you heard anything there, you're hearing it through the YouTube compression and everything. But wait, there's more. You can also put this on your mix bus and monitor through it and have it at 24-bit if you're outputting to a monitoring system and using 24-bit outs. And now we're wideness enhancing dithering to 24-bit. Let's turn this on and off just for laughs. And tell you what, I'm going to turn monitoring off because that's doing a dark dither to 24-bit. And now we are truncating to 24-bit, which is normally what a DAW is going to do. Listen to the noise floor. Listen to that reverb. And now we turn it on. So for that one, if you heard anything there, you were listening to probably just tiny hints of a change between truncation at 24-bit and PaulWide at 24-bit. And I think we'll leave it at that. Bottom line, I don't know if anybody's going to pick up what's being put down here. It's certainly not truncation at a higher bit rate, but this is still 24-bit truncation. And here's the PaulWide. You shouldn't really be hearing a difference there, but if you did, that's very interesting and surprising and impressive. Let's go to 16-bit again. And on that note, I will switch away from Logic here. And we will shut off that reverb, which is not that you're hearing a real reverb now because I decided that I was going to enhance things a little bit by getting a Rode MT1 microphone, which is a dead silent microphone, and putting it in an upstairs hallway. So here, check this out. This is what a distant Rode MT1 sounds like going through an API pre. How's that grab you? That is only the microphone in an upstairs hallway. It's far away, and the close mic is here. And that's a nice trick that you could do. Like, if that was interesting, the demonstration of that is Rode NT1 has one of the lowest self-noises of any microphone, and API pre's have good noise performance as well. And that means you can do crazy stuff like this and not have it buried in noise. But for when you don't have that kind of stuff going on, I will furnish the reverbs, and I will furnish you PaulWide. All of this is supported by Patreon. That's how I keep doing this kind of stuff week after week. So if you like seeing these kinds of things, and I'll have more exciting things coming soon. Some people are excited by Dither. A lot of people are not. That's fine. But all this is supported by Patreon, so if you enjoy having me doing this, by all means keep me on the job by going over there, and sometimes I suggest that if you would have bought one plugin a year back when I was selling them for $50 each, sign up on the Patreon if you can, if you're willing to, at a $50 a year level. If you're finished with that and you've gone for a year, then see whether I made another plugin that you also like, which you would also have bought at $50 a year. And then you can kind of pretend like I'm a commercial developer, even though if terrible things happen to you and all you've got is like your laptop and what you can download, you have everything that I make with my blessing, because that's kind of how I roll. On that note, I thank you, and I will talk to you later. Bye-bye.